Hi, welcome. My name is McCluskey, and on this video I'm going to discuss the issues of verbal commands, why I don't use verbal commands for the first couple weeks, at least not entirely. I don't use them, and I'll explain why, because this is really challenging. This really flies in the face of traditional dog training, or even the new age dog training, where they're taking learning theory and really pushing the boundaries in a way that totally what's happening is they're totally dismissing the connection issue. In fact, a lot of trainers don't even understand the connection issue, and this is why so many people fail. This is why role change doesn't happen at the level needed, or just simply doesn't happen at all. Even while dogs will be moving around, going through the motions of obedience class, and you'll be deceived. Okay, you'll be fooled into thinking that because the dog is going through the motions of doing a sit, or doing a down, or doing a stay, and because you get a certificate that you have a well-balanced dog. In fact, in many of those cases, that simply is not the case, especially within these systems that are taking these ideas about learning, and they're not qualifying the type of influence that's taking hold within their learning models. So when you look at the whole issue of commands and looking at what we're doing, okay, through connection, once you understand a dog's decision-making process, you'll see very clearly there's more going on here than meets the eye. In fact, appearances can be very deceiving, and a lot of times you can't trust them because you have to put it within the right context. I mean, context is everything. You have to know how to get a three-dimensional view and how to break it down, and then you'll see very clearly why I do the methodology exactly the way I do it. Okay, everything follows certain stages for a reason. So when you're following my methods, you have to follow them exactly the way that I lay them out, okay, if you want to be successful at the level that you're going for. So here I'm going to explain a couple of issues here. One of the things about what we're doing, okay, because when we look at, and I'll just make a couple of little diagrams on here. When we look at, say, this is the decision-making process of the dog, okay, we talk about why I do things the way I do them, and we look at, say, this is the dog owner, okay, and we look at the issue of verbal commands, and and then we talk about response, appearances. This is the thing, the verbal, we look at the verbal here, represents, okay, the physical. So the verbal represents the physical, okay, this is the human, this is the owner here. So, if you're using verbal commands, so the whole thing with relational connection is, and I show this right from the moment you get your dog, is it doesn't take long. It can take just a matter of a couple, 2 or 3 days. The dogs get a picture is painted, okay, of where you're standing in nature, okay, through strength and weakness, through your personality type, through the type of emotional connection that you're establishing with your dog. A picture is being created, okay, right, very quickly. Now, don't be fooled here. As soon as you get your dog, a puppy, it's already started, even before they start taking their first bite of food. This connection is just like a magnet, okay. That's why dogs are drawn to other dogs and other people. Dogs share that with people, okay. So therefore, it's nature, and there's a lot of things about nature that are totally opposite, totally reverse to human psychology, okay, and that's a problem. That'll be a problem. And as you watch these videos and I explain this, you'll see these interplays as to why, if you're thinking a certain way through your psychology, more emotional and permissive, it will totally take your feet out. Okay, you'll think and you'll be looking for some sort of a lifeline. And the problem is, because you're thinking a certain way, you'll gravitate towards the type of methodologies that are going to make things worse. They're not going to help you at all, because it's just like, again, you want a frame of reference, think about being a parent, and because it's almost identical with what happens with parenting with children nowadays. And and this is a spillover effect. I show in my study, my book, Mind and Body Connection, I reference this. Permissive parenting is really out of control, okay? It's the attitudes in society about raising children have really got into the emotional, permissive side of things in a way that I believe is causing a problem. And besides that, spilling over into relationships with our dogs, because that's a living thing. I mean, with that type of a environment, people, and then add on to that, people get dogs, for that need, but it's hitting extremes. Okay, that's the problem here. People aren't, it's not like an animal anymore, but in the sense of it being almost a human being, and we're kind of setting ourselves up, especially here I showed nature, for failure. But when you look at the verbal side of things, getting back to the verbal side of things, now we think you have to stay focused on this connection issue. When you look at the verbal side of things, it's mind and body. So, what I say, if I speak a command, if I say come, the dog, the pull it has over the dog's mind is going to be dependent on, connected to, what I've established in the relationship, okay, through connection, okay. How the dog is parenting is like parental influence, the type of influence that I've established within that relationship. And there's but how I establish it, it's more about my personality type, how assertive a person I am, how much of a parent I'm being, and whether those interactions represent that, whether it's making a difference with the dog. So therefore, the problem here with these learning theory ideas, because we'll talk about this a little bit, because it's all connected. So we'll talk a little bit on this video about learning, why this is such an issue, because right away, because this will go into the verbal commands when the mind is reacting to you leading, okay, the mind, and not speaking verbal commands, just doing. People will often say, well, the dog is resisting because it doesn't understand what you're doing, okay? I mean, that's the first argument that's made, is the levels of resistance is because, like human beings, right, we expect someone, to tell us or teach us or us to use, we use our language in a way that's going to direct, but here it's the emphasis on nature it's on the unspoken language. I mean, dogs and animals, it's connection, okay? Their language is more connection, okay? It's unspoken. So we talk about, right up in here, unspoken language, because don't be fooled, there's language happening, okay? That's the thing about this, and once you understand a little bit about this connection issue, you'll see there's language happening. In fact, anyone that has a dog there's something intuitive happening. Dogs seem to understand what we're about to do. And, a lot of that's relational triggers, and you want to watch that video too about relational triggers, how that language will play out that way, okay? When you see dogs' tails wagging for the leash and their mind is going ahead, but here the language of the reaction of us through connection through what we're doing, there's unspoken language in the sense of the dog is picking up, our dog trainers call it energy, but what it is, it's a script that's changing within our psychology, okay? So as your thinking changes, so for example, let's write on here your thinking processes. As your thinking processes change, okay, the dog is going to react to those based on, okay, what has already been established through connection, okay? This is the thing to understand here. People get really confused about these things, but I'm going to help you understand a little bit. So, what has been currently established, okay? So, to understand, you might not have done any formalized training or nothing, but as soon as you bring your dog home, You're establishing, okay, not making a decision, making a decision, okay? I mean, this whole thing with alignment of the roles, they're happening right away through connection. So as I say, this is why when you look at training, training is nothing more than an intervention. You know, when you really understand dogs, you understand that, you know, I'm already, you know, getting in there and trying to break you free from what you've already established, even though you've never done any training. You've done it whether you realize it or not, because it's not about training, it's about life. Okay, it's about connection. That's why your dog is, you know, doing through behavior issues, okay, expressing power. They already have the lead role, oftentimes. They already have that established. So, therefore, here's the problem, okay? This is the thing about the verbal, you know, getting into this whole thing about learning, and then when you get into formalized training, why a lot of times this is not effective, okay? This is, in fact, people are focused on these ideas about learning and using, and what comes off learning? Right? Oftentimes the first thing a lot of these big learning people do is they use what? Treats. Then they'll create an association. They're big on this big clicker fad, clickers. Okay, but what I'm showing here is we can focus on that, but it's not really about that. Okay, I mean that's a symptom of that's an indicator. Okay, when you look at, you know, kind of group, because what I do here with, when you understand the mind, okay, you understand how this connection issue and your personality type and all part of that plays, that's the real agent of change, how we're thinking, the power of this connection. Therefore, people that gravitate towards certain, say, devices, and that's what you can look for. If your psychology is more emotional, what are you going to be leaning on? Well, what are you going to be adopting for your methodologies? Treats. Clickers, learning. We'll talk about learning again in the context of, because, you know, police dog handlers, you know, I mean, they use aspects of the conditioning model, okay? But you'll see, because of the personality types involved, why they're more successful, even when there's learning models in there. But again, nothing to do with that, okay? I'll temporarily focus on this, because what you're going to see here is it's about connection, okay? It's about how you're thinking, how you're connecting with dogs, about your personality. But here, learning, right? You're going to use what? Body harnesses. You're going to use, say, halting, which is a device to kind of restrain the dog. You're not going to like crates, okay? That's the other thing. That's the other side of it. You're going to use probably retractable leashes. You may even put your dog in clothes, okay? And nothing. I mean, it's all about how people think, okay? So this is, if you look at this, you group this stuff in. Try to step back and look at, okay, what if you're an emotional person? It's just like parenting again. What type of you know, discipline model are you going to follow if you're a permissive parent? Think about what I'm saying. Think hard about it. Okay, you're going to use timeouts. You're going to try to use, say, reward systems, a motivating tool or agent. I talk about this. It'd be like parenting using the model is using chocolate bars and new cars. I mean, I know that people say, oh, I'm not going to use chocolate. I mean, but if you really look at that, especially, and this is why I say with what kids are sort of control. And this is the other issue, okay? People that, and this happens, okay, this is a big problem. People that are very permissive in their psychology, depending on the level they're at, they'll go and they'll throw labels around and they go extreme. They're like radicals almost. They get radical with stuff. And then because you reject these ideas or you're challenging here, because I'm challenging it, they'll say you're a dog abuser, or you don't love your dog, or all these, you know, and all these things that get thrown around. Because it's very destructive. It's permissive thinking, okay? Or they'll look at the crate, say and if you listen to their words or language, they're very emotional. They'll throw a lot of emotional language in amongst when they're talking, because it's not about fact or opinion, but beyond that, they're governed by this emotional type of thinking. And forget it. I mean, there's people that it doesn't matter what I show, because I know what I'm talking about. Okay, I really do. But it doesn't matter, because they try to label up that they really will go in and they'll argue to death, and they have a suicide path with this methodology. Okay, but what I show is because of the interplays, which I'll go in these videos, I'll describe them all. You'll see why, if you're thinking a certain way, and it's the tipping point is over a certain line, you're finished. Okay, there's no way. That's why I don't argue with certain people, or certain people won't come through me because they don't want they don't want this. Okay, they want the same Kool-Aid, and people. That's why people go home all the time. That's why this is happening. Okay, and I'm passionate about this. This is why so many people are failing within these models because they're not looking. They don't understand the relationship. They're indoctrinated to these learning ideas. Okay, they're indoctrinated. They're sold out to them. You know, I mean, someone that, you know, if you start with these learning models even if you're a trainer, and you won't ever see clearly, okay, because the reason is there's half truth in this. Okay, because I'm not saying, because people take the other extreme and say, well, no, role change happens, or I'm not saying that role change doesn't happen. Okay, what I'm saying is it will and can happen, but it's about the personality types of the people in those classes. It's like it's like a domino effect. I'll write that over here. I know I'm putting some notes here. I won't put that there, but it's what it is. It's all right down here. Domino effect. This is where it belongs. Because the connection issue is happening whether you see it or not. And the issue here is if you don't see it, then you can't manipulate and control it. You know, I understand the connection issue, so I can manipulate, I can control, I can make it work out so the role change is going to happen. Okay, because I understand. This is why we talk about commands here, and why my system works the way it does. It's because I'm coming directly through connection. Okay, through the roles. Okay, I'm maneuvering you, I'm aligning you through the strength of the lead role. Okay, because if you start, this is the thing about verbal language, is it's just like if you've already are perceived as the weak link, then your foundation is on sand right now. Okay, it's on sand, and it's not on cement. It's not on a foundation of strength. It's on sand because you're perceived as like the permissive parent. You're being objectified. Okay, you're being objectified. We'll put that over here, but now again, within these learning models, you know, you have to understand, because we're going to get in, I'll talk to you further on my videos here, but you have to understand influence type. I'm going to put influence type. The type of influence happening within these learning models. But you can't figure out the type of influence if you don't understand the relational connection piece of this, okay? Many trainers, I say most trainers don't, at the level I do. I'm probably, and I don't want to toot my own horn, I'm probably the only trainer that you're going to find that can break this down the way I do. Okay, you won't find anyone out there to do this. Okay, this has taken years. I understand it, deep insight, I know what's going on, break it right down. People, all sorts of people, what to do is, they get to a certain level, but they stop at a certain level on a device, on a remote call or something. They just stop. They kind of just hover there, and they get focused on a certain device or whatever. If you ask them, well, why does your system work? They'll say, well, I have a formula I follow that just works. Like Cesar Millan talks instinctive behavior. You know, his methodology is instinctive because he can't break it down. Okay, I'm not, I mean, this is the thing about doing it smart so you don't get bitten. I lay it all at the foundation over here so that this is about being methodical, but understanding why I do it the way I do it. So we go off the unspoken language. That means, okay, we're not issuing commands like that because, like I said, it's on the foundation is on sand right now. The physical and the mind and body are connected. So if I say come right now, and the dog already perceives me as being weak, they might be thinking, well, I'll come. Maybe I'm going to get something in return, a treat. And that's why it breaks down. That's why another dog comes with the dog, that your dog is gone. Because nature is going to override it, okay? That's why even, I'll talk in another video, I mean, there's so much to talk about here. We talk about instinctual behavior. That's the Achilles heel, so to speak. Instinctive behavior means that a dog's desire, like prey drive, a dog wanting to go towards other animals. This is the thing that breaks down. This is one of the contradictions in these people that really promote learning theory. They'll talk about fixed action patterns, and they'll say, well, the dog just, you can't. Well, what they'll do is because what happens is their models break down, And so they have to make excuses. And they'll say, well, the dog, you can never train your dog to go fully, go after another dog or a cat or whatever. If you really question them on this, I mean, there's books I have that they'll admit this stuff. When you really start to pin them down on their models, that's they're contradicting themselves. I say they're outright lying, okay, about what they're doing at certain levels because they're so indoctrinated, But here's the truth: once you create role change with your dog isn't going to go after other cats. Yes, that's the natural predator perhaps of the animal. That's part of the prey drive. But no, I'll tell you what overrides all that is your ability to create role change. Overrides it. Okay, it's not going to pull your dog's mind off course. So if your dog is getting pulled off course through other animals, role change. The simple fact is just role change hasn't happened. But you go in here and try to figure this out within these models, you're going to be confused. You're not going to be able to do it. This is about connection. Okay, this is about doing it. This is why I don't use command. One of the reasons for the first week or two, because we're taking it right through the strength of role. That's the thing I understand. Your dog, okay. Here's your physical here, but here's your mind. As your mind starts to gain momentum, okay, with say moving the leash, moving your dog a certain way, even before you move the leash, the dog feels that building and will start to react and respond to it. Okay, I'm not using any commands. I'm just starting to move the leash. This is the unspoken language. So the reaction, the level of reaction that you're going to get, the level of challenge you're going to get, is dependent on what is currently established. Okay, how you're perceived in an overall sense within the relationship. Okay, this is where you get the reaction levels. So this is what's established here again, and we'll take it down here, another arrow, okay, to show that your reactions is depending on, even with the verbal commands, is dependent on what truly has been established. So if the dog doesn't come to you, okay, and consistently breaks down, well, role change again is what established hasn't been happening. I don't care, again, you go on the whole learning model, this doesn't mean anything. Okay, that's why I tell people reject this stuff. Don't think about it. If you do, you're just going to get confused, and your focus is going to go off, shift away from what really matters is connection. So here, what you want to focus on. So here, what's been established. So here, if your relationship is on stand right now, and you want to change it to foundation stones to start to firm it up so it's cement. We're going to take it right directly through the roles. We're not using commands. Okay, this is why I say, yes, you're going to get reactions, but we're bringing the true nature of the role up to the surface. Okay, you're going to get in competition. That's what you're doing. You're in competition. So of course the dog's going to react. It has nothing to do with the dog not understanding what you're doing. Now it's different because the dog completely understands what you're doing, even though you're not speaking commands. He's saying, what's going on here? Dale's, leading me. And because the dog does, through this connection, the dog feels where your mind is going, traveling. Okay, but if your dog's holding power in the relationship, the reactions you're going to get is going to show where your dog thinks you're standing. Because trust me, when your dog starts to go into the follow of a role, and you'll see it without again using commands, I just start to my mind starts building. I just start to go into, I'm going to put my dog into the sit position, I push them in. They'll start to just go right in. But the first couple weeks, but you still need to push. Okay, this is important. So, do not use commands the first couple weeks. Okay, there's a reason for it. It's so we're making sure that role change is going to happen. Okay, that's critical. So do not use commands the first couple weeks. There's one level you will on the come command, but you're pulling at the same time. Okay, but here, this is just an overview. I know, this video is something to kind of watch probably more than one time. Okay. Especially if you want to be a trainer or you want to start to get your head around this. But the command part, it's very challenging, I'll admit, for people based on how we think as humans to say, well, they're not using commands. I mean, that's going to blow people's minds. But understand something here. I'm working out of the box. I'm not in the box. Okay, all these models, I'm not in the box for a reason because I understand why so many people are failing. It's relational. It's about connection. It's about we're using the unspoken language. You're connected to nature. You have both feet in nature whether you realize it or not. I'm just making sure they're on the right side of nature. Okay, that's the issue here. And it is all about how you're thinking. So if you really think about it, dogs really know how we think. If this, what I'm saying is true, which it is, wouldn't it make sense as to why so many people are failing? I mean, think about it. Instead, step back a little bit. We have 4 million dogs being destroyed in North America. If what I'm saying is true, wouldn't it make sense? And then people going towards the same method, but wouldn't it make sense why so many people are failing? Well, what I'm saying is it makes perfect sense, and not in a good way. But again, I want to encourage you. I mean, if you're watching these videos, that's a good thing. If you're here, that's a good thing, because it means you want to know the truth. And I'm all about the truth, okay? And it's going to be a difficult truth for a lot of people, because it's really going to challenge you. But what I say is be encouraged. You can do it. I absolutely have no doubt that people can do this. Just for now, focus on keeping it simple. Don't use commands. Don't question what I'm saying about that. I know I'm like saying don't question it, but understand there's a reason behind it. They all come online. But after the foundation stones, enough of the foundation stones have been changed out, and then we hook the commands on after about 3 weeks. Okay, but for now, just lead your dog, lead the mind. You know, not about being aggressive, it's smooth and fluid, there's a calmness to this, but you have to be, just like a parent getting in your child's airspace, you gotta be doing that. So, anyway, thanks for watching. I hope this video was insightful. I hope you have a great day.